KwaZulu-Natal authorities have started counting the cost of the damage caused by the heavy rain and flooding as mop-up operations get underway. More than 300 people have died following the deadly storms. Scores of families are stranded and many have been without water or electricity. The Provincial Department of Cooperative Governance in KZN has appealed to affected families to refrain from returning to disaster-stricken areas. Yesterday, President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the province, which has since been declared a disaster area. 12 people have been arrested after 2 retail outlets were broken into and looted last night at Umlazi Township, south of Durban. The incident, which left several retail outlets completely empty, also saw some communities helping themselves to containers that were washed away by the floods. The suspects have been arrested for charges of business burglary and possession of stolen property. Well, for more on this story, let's cross now to our environmental news reporter, Nozintombi Miya. Thank you so much, Nozintombi, for joining us. We know that you've been crisscrossing around the KZN area. Tell us where you are and what's the latest where you are.
Yeah, you're quite right, Nompu. We really have been crisscrossing this section of KZN from Umlazi, and we're finally here in Chatsworth. I mean, it has been sporadic incidents all the way from Westville, Umlazi, Central Durban. Different parts of KZN have been severely affected. But the area that we're in right now, Shell Cross, which is next to Chatsworth, it lies on the slope of several mountains. And on Monday, when it started raining and the flood started rising, what happened was that some of the structures were affected. So the back rooms, the back porches, the back walls of different houses on the slopes started crumbling and going into their neighbors' houses. Some of the neighbors have got structural damages to their properties as a result of crumbling walls from a neighboring property. And it's left people here really despondent. I mean, we spoke to the homeowner, one of the homeowners that we spoke to about an hour ago, and they say that the fact that they have no access to water, they can't flush their toilet. It's a struggle for them to get drinking water on a sweltering day such as today, has exacerbated the situation. They're grateful for the fact that currently they have electricity, but network is still a problem. And the problem with network is that they're unable to then call to different communities to try and find out which communities have access to water tankers. I mean, we do know from the provincial government, from yesterday's announcement with a walkabout with the president from provincial government, that they said all the MECs will be on the ground in different regions, in different municipalities, and there'd be water tankers provided to all these communities that have been affected. But the reality on the ground, Nompo, has been that since 4:30 in the morning, we have not seen a single water tanker. We have crisscrossed the length of Umlazi. We have driven through Chatsworth, Shell Cross. We have not seen a single municipal tank. We've seen people with buckets, with wheelbarrows, putting their buckets inside wheelbarrows, desperately moving from one point to the other point, hoping to get water. And the community here at Chatsworth, what they've done is to form community forums for themselves, to get one of the uncles who's got a big bucket to come and bring, take the buckets of water and put it in his bucket to go and deliver to the different houses. It is absolute chaos. It is devastation that has been wrought from all social sectors of KZN. It is not just people who live in townships. It is the people that are living by the seasides. It is the people that are living in the suburbs. They're calling for assistance. They're saying that government response is simply too slow and they need help. They need assistance before the next wave of flooding starts again, which is anticipated to start before the end of the day, before the end of this weekend, Nompu.
Yeah, very scary indeed. But Nozintombi, some of these homeowners who've been affected adversely, what are they saying about their confidence levels of insurance? I mean, are most of the people that you speak to insured? Are some not?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we will be speaking to one of the owners within the next hour. They're just gone to go and try and collect some water. And they'll be giving us the opportunity to go inside their house and speak to them and get more insight on them. But not all of the homeowners have got insurance. You recall with the double whammy of the COVID-19 lockdown, as well as people having lost their jobs as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown, a lot of people are living hand to mouth, or are living with the bare basics, the bare necessities. So luxuries such as home insurance, luxuries such as outside insurance, it's not a luxury that all of the homeowners have across the board. And this is worrying to them, because it means that on top of a natural disaster that they have to worry about, they have to fork out more money, because they're not sure at this point whether or not the relief funds that government will be releasing or providing will cater to them, or even get to the point where it even meets a minimum of their obligation, because the scale to which the destruction has been wrought is so widespread, and there are people who are in even more dire straits than those who, let's say, are living in the suburbs and may not necessarily have insurance. But it's an added worry, an added financial worry, compounded on the current worries that they have, that they have no access to water. Electricity is limited. Confidence, from what we're hearing in terms of confidence of local government, ward councillors and leaders, what we're hearing on the ground is that level of confidence is at a very low level.
Nozintombi, you know, when you get sort of environmental disasters pending, so for example, in the United States, when they know that if they've got a heavy storm coming, they warn their people to say, hey, this storm looks really bad, please evacuate. Aren't there conversations being had about, because we know that KZN is always susceptible to this situation, aren't there conversations about ensuring that people are warned to evacuate, instead of just being told, oh, there's a bad weather system coming, and then you sit at home and hope for the best?
Yeah. So, you know, to answer your question on that, and that is such a critical question, we do know that Greenpeace released a statement, and I know that during the course of the week they had spoken to me directly to say that they'd been lobbying from the beginning of the year already to work with the Department of Environment, to work with cooperative governments, to work with different government structures and NGOs to start putting imminent plans to safeguard vulnerable communities that are living on coastlines such as KZN, Eastern Cape and the Western Cape. And they say that they were basically brushed aside and put on the back burner. We know that just last week, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released their 6th report, talking about how the danger is imminent and that governments need to be proactive. Government needs to put in finances in place to ensure that they are providing adequate infrastructure to buffer these vulnerable communities. Because these vulnerable communities are the women and children who are the weakest, and the elderly, those who are disabled, who won't be able to get away from the low-lying areas to the higher areas, or to be able to swim through or navigate through whatever natural disaster. And we are hearing from all these NGO sectors that they have been lobbying government. They have been talking to government to start putting preventative measures instead of reactive measures. And they're saying that the situation as we're seeing now is as a result of government not listening effectively and not taking appropriate immediate action in being able to start putting in the necessary infrastructure. The report that was released, a media statement that was released by the Premier of KZN, speaks about how disaster relief funds will be released. Efforts to assist people will be done. MECs will be on the ground reactive yet again, not responding proactively to the current challenges. Yes, there were possibly warnings to the communities, and we know that the South African Weather Service is very proactive in giving warnings. They've already given a warning about the anticipation of further thunderstorms over the weekend. But the problem is, if we're seeing our government sectors not working hand in hand with the local communities, the NGO, the environmental groups, to establish proactive measures to circumvent disasters or disastrous consequences that we're seeing, there will never really be a proper solution. It will always be government reacting, government shorthanded, government spread thin, people frustrated, looting because there's no food, there's no access to food. This morning, what we saw with the actual tankers that were lying on the highway on the N2, that means that's fresh food that's not going to get access to communities. That means those are clothes that are not going to be delivered to communities. The highways are chock-a-block. There's not sufficient, in the hours we've been driving this morning, there has not been sufficient Metro Police management. We've seen taxi associations themselves being more organized than the Metro Police that we're seeing, than the provincial police that we're seeing. We only started to see some movement from them from about 8 o'clock in the morning. By that time, people had already started taking their buckets and their wheelbarrows and walking distances to try and get access to water, to go to places where there's network so they can try and call for help. So the slow reactive response from provincial government, talking about releasing the funds, talking about we will, is adding further fuel and further confusion, stress and chaos to an already volatile and devastating situation. Nompu.
Nozintombi, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. My colleague there, Nozintombi Miya, who is our environmental